Hello, this is Benjamin Boyce, and this present video is a condensed interview which is designed to get the word out about an e-petition that is begging the Canadian government to release analytics regarding the outcome of Bill C-16. In 2016, the Canadian government decided to tack on gender identity to their protected classes within their human rights laws, and this was supposed to have attached to it a gender-based analysis, which would show how this bill would impact or does impact various communities. Canada is refusing to release this analysis, and this interview is with Jennifer Ann, who has been petitioning the government to release these analyses so that people can become aware of the outcome of C-16. If you are a Canadian citizen, there are links in the description to better inform yourself about this bill, as well as a link to the e-petition itself if you so desire to have the government be held accountable to the laws that it is implementing to shape your society. So that introduction over, this interview will now inform you about the ins and outs of this petition and this gender-based analysis and Bill C-16. Here we go. Could you give us an overview of what this is? It's a gender-based analysis for C-16. So C-16, could you give us an overview of C-16 and then the implementation and what this gender-based analysis is?
Okay. First, I'd love it to be called sex-based analysis, which is in French. In our French, we do call it, but we call it gender-based analysis, and it has been changed to gender-based analysis plus. But at the time, Bill C-16 was presented in May 2016 as an amendment to the Canadian Human Rights Act, as well as the Criminal Code of Canada, to add the gender identity and gender expression for prohibited grounds for discrimination. Unfortunately, with this Bill C-16, there's no specific safety for transgender individuals. It's just been this vague and loose language of gender expression and gender identity. So when it was tabled to the Parliament from our Attorney General, what was required is what's a gender-based analysis, a whole analysis of talking to different groups and finding out what will the impact be on, transgender individuals or women, on society, on our socioeconomics. And so Justin Trudeau had promised that every piece of legislation, doesn't matter what, it could be, forestry, that a gender-based analysis must be required and done before any legislation is passed. So back when it was tabled by our Attorney General in 2016, it was actually a trans individual that when this bill was tabled, contacted a group of women and said, "I don't think you know what the ramifications of this bill really means. That there will be individuals who will take advantage of it." And it was that individual who warned women, and these women sent I use my hands a lot, sorry, sent a letter to the government and explained that you're required to do a gender-based analysis, and we want you to do that gender-based analysis because we are understanding that this very well and has proven discrimination towards women and our sex-based rights. The government ignored them and still passed the bill. And from there's been this fight from a group, not a fight, I shouldn't say, but this doing all the appropriate government sources of how to obtain this gender-based analysis. Now, I have been able to access gender-based analysis and they call them GBA plus, but I want to focus on what it was when Bill C-16, which was just called a gender-based analysis. One was it was from the finance department. It was to do with pensions, a change in pensions. I requested it, got it, received it within a few days. Then there was an inquiry. It was 9 pages, and it was to do with documentation memos that were for Bill C-16 GBA. I've never received that. They just won't give that to me.
So just to summarize, the Trudeau government promised that any legislation would have attached to it an analysis of some sort to show the impacts of this or the potential impacts of this. Bill C-16 never had that and still doesn't have it, or the government does have it but is not releasing it?
I knew what was happening with Bill C-16, but, and it had affected me. And at one point, something happened. But you kind of just go, well, I'm in a small city, it's not really affecting me, and I have other things that I'm focused on. In the beginning of September, there was an article, and I'm not doxing anyone, but and I'm sure this person's fine with it, but I'm not going to. This individual wrote an article that Statistics Canada, as of January 2019, was no longer recording the sex of criminals, but by their gender. So this information was collected with our Universal Crime Reporting Survey, which, in my mind, right away, statistics matter so much. And for something that I'm really focused and interested in, concerned about is femicide, the act of violence and murder on women based on their sex. So when I heard about Statistics Canada, I was just, this can't be true. She provided the truth that it was there, but I still had to inquire myself. I thought, this can't be real. How do we know what resources are needed for women if now crimes are reporting, men as women on women? So the dance between Trudeau and I began, where I emailed Statistics Canada with questions to see if this was true. And I was inquiring with our Prime Minister to make sure this too, and to make sure he was aware that people are aware and concerned about this.
In November, you then proceeded to file an e-petition through the House of Commons because your representative wasn't responding to you. The representatives that you had reached out weren't responding to you. So the NDP, which I'm not surprised at all because the NDP is hyper far left, and for whatever reason with intersectional analysis applied to politics, the most oppressed will be given the most coverage. And because the because of the way that the trans rights has come about, that's given much more protection to the trans individuals than to women at this point. So I can see why they don't even want to deal with that, because that's a nightmare for them. Especially when you have events with Meghan Murphy showing up in Toronto and everybody's going out in the streets and screaming. You don't want to deal with that. And so you tried to do just letter of the law just to get information on this, just to get this information. And information that was furthermore required or promised by the government. Absolutely.
And gender-based analysis are not meant, like, they are for public viewing because there is no private information. We're not gathering people's names, addresses. It's, meeting with groups, and there's nothing private. This should not be under lock, cabinet confidentiality.
So do you, at this point in time, let's say in November, did you think that it didn't exist or that it was just being suppressed? Like, do you have any guesses on that? And that's total conspiracy theory. But
oh gosh, no, I know. Remember, I kind of mentioned to you, it sounds like that. But what I believe, and I still believe, is that it was completed because a senator mentioned that there was one, but yet no member of parliament, the senators, were actually privy to it. She's got in her speech, I have proof of it. So I do still believe that I still want to believe that it was done, but I believe it's been kept quiet because they did not do the proper analysis. Now, I've reached out to National Women's Association of Canada, Native Women's Council of Canada to see just if they were even consulted about this. I haven't heard back. But yes, I do believe that it has been done. It's just that the government doesn't want us to see it. Now, I must mention, during this time, someone had made contact with me and mentioned someone from a group called PDF Quebec, Pour le droit de femme de Quebec. I'm not great. I'm sorry about that. And wouldn't you know it, I made contact with this group, with the president. And she started supplying me with all this information. And that's when I realized they had done through the Justice Department an access to information and privacy. And they were railroaded, denied, even through the actual Attorney General told that this was cabinet confidentiality. They wouldn't. And it was sitting then, since it was denied, it goes to the next step, which is the Information Commissioner of Canada. And it's been sitting there for almost 3 years now.
And in order to get this e-petition to go to the next level, you needed to get a sponsor, a representative of some some sort.
Yeah. I took a big step, and I decided that every single MP in Canada was going to, and they have it right now, an email specifically from me. And in that email, I explained that I've this e-petition, that I'm looking for someone to authorize it. And I also included what we have seen since Bill C-16. I put in regards to our rape shelters, our gyms, our sports. And so they could not play ignorant anymore. So I did that, and I explained to Trudeau that this is what's happening. I'm not playing games anymore, and that every single MP that has been emailed this. My own MP wouldn't touch it. There is now an MP that has taken it on, and I'm just staying neutral about that because people are pro and against this individual, and I, quite frankly, he was the only individual that would take it. So why would I say no? So he accepted it. It had to go to the petition clerk to review it, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, what if something's wrong there? Can you imagine? That went through, and then so a few days later, I think it was on the 14th, it was published. I was expecting it to be like Monday or Tuesday when I spoke to you. Yeah. So it was up, and here we go. All these support from so many groups that I had made contact with, and I couldn't believe it. It was just 500 within just over 24 hours. So, so there is this huge desire of Canadians that believe we have the right to see this.
What if the data is showing that women are being systemically oppressed due to C-16?
What I believe is that Bill 16 only has a chance to stand if the GBA is released and it shows that there isn't a bias against women, which we've already seen that there is. I believe that Bill C-16 can then be repealed or changing of wording. I mean, what's happening, as you already know, is that unfortunately women's rights are being denied because of a group of really it's men who, and that's the thing. It's like there are so many trans individuals that just want to live a really lovely, happy life, and I so support them. But we've seen, because of this very vague language, we've seen an insurgence of men who just want to take advantage of it. And so that's my concern. But I believe that this is the biggest scandal of Trudeau's government ever, because of the fact that he had stated it would be done, and he has not supplied it to us. So I believe that with this gender-based analysis, there's a very strong possibility that we as Canadians can say we want to repeal Bill C-16. And what I will mention too is that there is a bill right now, which is really frightening because it's called S-202, I believe, and it's about conversion therapy. And now, of course, conversion therapy we don't agree with, right? I mean, no one should be told that they have to change their
to force homosexuals into
yes,
heterosexual frame of mind. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the way that this is being turned around is that it's now being used that children who are stating that they are, I mean, these are like 12-year-olds that are stating that as long as they state that they feel that if they're a female and they feel like they're a male, the government can step in and say to parents, you're not providing the appropriate, your child. So this new bill, this cannot go forward without them releasing or doing a GBA. So if they can't even do a GBA on that, this is all stemming from Bill C-16. Okay. So I just believe that Bill C-16 doesn't have a chance.
So if the precedent is that the government won't release these gender-based analysis or sex-based analysis on C-16, then that can go into what they're calling conversion therapy now, which is basically the giving the ability to children to convert themselves, like literally physically undergo conversion therapy.
Yes.
With government support and without their parents having any say. Or even, one would say, time-based psychological, counseling to allow them to figure out what's going on in their head before they start to meddle with their body. So only Canadians can sign this, right? Like
That's true.
That's
Canadians.
obvious,
Yeah.
right? So what we're doing with this video is getting the word out to all my Canadian followers and all your Canadian followers that in Canada you have the chance to hold the government accountable for the laws that it is instating to change the way in which society operates on a sex-based level.
Beautifully put. Yes.
Let's get this out. Let me edit this down and put it up there on the YouTube.
Okay, I appreciate. I thought, my goodness, I don't think we'll have much to chat about because we already received 500 signatures, and I didn't want to waste your time. So I appreciate letting me just kind of explain it. I had all these papers trying to get myself orientated, and yeah.
Thank you so much. We did good.
No problem.
I'll let you know what happens.
Okay, thank you. All right, it was really nice talking to you. And I have been watching your Evergreen. It's blowing my mind watching that.
Oh, really?
It's so good because I like I like 20-minute sort of intervals, and I'm just there's so many parallels that I'm seeing, that I'm going, my goodness, excellent. I have to tell you, excellent. That's so much hard work. So you got me on that. I'm just watching it and going, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad to terrify you.
Oh yeah, it's big eye opener. Yeah.